Welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Maggie learns the verity about Konstantin. Xander surprised Sarah with a Mother's Day mug from Victoria. They joked about the world's stylish mummy moniker on the mug before turning the talk to attending Maggie's Mother's Day regale. Xander was lower than thrilled at the prospect of spending the day with Konstantin, and Sarah prodded him to be on his stylish jest. Sarah also brought up Xander's mama and wondered why she had no way met the woman or why Xander had no way talked about her. Xander murmured, "Some effects are not worth talking about," kissed Sarah, and went to fawn over Victoria. When Xander returned, Sarah followed up on a comment he'd made about Mother's Day in Scotland taking place in March. She asked Xander if he would reached out to his mama also, but Xander still did not want the subject broached. Sarah believed Victoria should have the chance to know both of the girls' grandmothers. Xander contended Sarah would feel else if she met his mama. Sarah agreed to drop the mama talk because she could tell it was driving for Xander. Xander told Sarah he'd untreated business to take care of, and Sarah rightly guessed he meant Stefan. Xander pledged to find the verity about who had set him up, while snappily cheering Sarah he'd not resort to illegal means. Sarah pondered what Xander might do if Stefan confessed, but Xander did not answer. He left, and Sarah appeared concerned. Latterly, Sarah murmured over Victoria and gushed about how important Xander loved them both. She was surprised by a knock on the door, and indeed more so when she set up Konstantin on the other end. Sarah tried to subtly shoo Konstantin down, but he let himself in and made a beeline for Victoria. When he introduced himself as Victoria's new archetype, Sarah had a visible response in the background. Konstantin wanted to thank Sarah for her support, especially given the rest of the family's misprision for him. Sarah told him he'd her support on one condition: do not break my mama's heart. Konstantin put his hand over his heart and pledged on the river Styx that he'd not hurt Maggie. Sarah was thankful that Maggie had a companion in Konstantin, but she bothered that Konstantin's presence would help Maggie from chancing love again, like the amazing alternate act Maggie had endured with Victor. Konstantin comforted Sarah that he valued Maggie's fellowship, and if Maggie ever wanted him gone, also he'd be gone. Sarah sounded relieved, and Konstantin thanked her again. He promised that he'd make Maggie happy, since she had given his life new meaning. When Victoria made a cooing noise, Konstantin grew wistful and wished for Sarah to cherish every moment with her little girl, as he'd with his son. Sarah said she could relate to Konstantin's grief, since she, too, had lost a child, and she assured him by saying his son would always be with him. Konstantin thanked Sarah again and left, but Sarah still looked equivocal. Stefan was lower than enthusiastic when Ava and Harris arrived at the Demara manse. He appertained to the couple as churs on a canine. Harris claimed on sequestration because of the tendency for people to pop out of coverts at the manse, but Stefan assured him the coverts were being fumigated. Stefan's mood estranged further after Ava and Harris streamlined him about Clyde's rearmost demands. Harris and Ava blazoned that they were going to the police station and wanted Stefan's help, which drew another irritated look from Stefan. Stefan incontinently protested that he wouldn't do it. He calmed down and heeded as Harris explained the plan, however. Harris wanted to tell the Bobbies that Stefan, not Ava, had turned the book into him. Stefan agreed to the idea because he wanted a ringside seat for Clyde's downfall. Following Harris and Ava's departure, Stefan was saluted by another unpleasant guest, Xander. Stefan rolled his eyes and asked what Xander wanted. He substantiated the preposterous story Xander had preliminarily told him about E.J. setting Xander up. Xander agreed he was wrong because he'd come to believe he'd the wrong family. Stefan took a drink and scarfed at Xander's blameworthiness. Stefan claimed he did not give a rip about Xander and demanded Xander leave, telling him not to let the door hit you in the burrow on the way out. Xander pressed Stefan on his motives for the setup. He was certain Stefan was the shamefaced party, especially after learning that Stefan had been under Clyde's thumb. Stefan continued to defend himself and outhandedly mentioned the quantum of plutocrat that had been deposited into Xander's bank account. Xander scowled and wondered how Stefan was privy to that undisclosed detail. Stefan tried several defenses, similar as having read about the plutocrat deposit in the paper and having heard about it from J. Xander was undecided and pledged to make Stefan pay when he set up evidence. Stefan asked if Xander was hanging him. "Damn right I am," Xander clarified and stormed out. Latterly, Stefan milled over a drink and stated to himself that Xander was getting too close. His mood cheered when he entered a call from Gabby. He promised her he'd see her soon and pledged to do everything in his power to get Gabby out of captivity and to reunite with her. Ava awaited at their apartment while Harris took the book to the police station. When he returned, Harris brought Ava up to speed on handing the book over to Rafe and Jada. They had been open to the substantiation and had not questioned that it had come from Stefan, important to Ava's relief. The police were going to run an analysis on the blood, and Harris hoped it would yield answers. He believed that if Clyde had claimed another victim, that person's family was entitled to justice. Ava felt encouraged that with the police disquisition and with the help from Harris's friend on cracking the law, Harris and she could do the world a favor and end Clyde's reign of terror. She was burdened about the prospect of Harris leaving city to work on the case, however. Harris said he'd a couple of hours before his flight and wanted to take a nap. Smiling, Ava suggested he could enthrall his time in better ways, and she kissed him. As they lay in bed latterly, Harris disregarded about the first time he'd met Ava. While she cracked, he'd aloud. She was crazy, Harris corrected her. He'd seen Ava as changeable, mysterious, and a little misplaced. He grew emotional as he told Ava that she had changed everything for him. She affirmed that he'd done the same for her, and they declared their love for each other. Ava could not stay until Harris returned and was back in her arms. Further time had passed, and Harris packed for his trip. He promised to be gone only a many days and advised Ava to stay conservative. She asked the same of him, to which he joked he was virtually bulletproof. Harris assured Ava the plan would work, and the couple hugged. When Xander arrived home, he reviled at his lack of progress with that bloody bugger, Stefan. Xander was more certain than ever that Stefan had set him up. Sarah suggested Xander should let it go, but he instantly refused. She contended with him not to do anything rash, and he again promised that his only precedence was staying with his family. As he turned his attention to Victoria, still, Sarah's smile faded. At the Kiriakis' manse, Konstantin schmoozed Maggie with further flowers. He placarded he wanted to take Maggie to Greece for their honeymoon. Maggie snappily reminded Konstantin that the marriage would be in name only, but Konstantin queried he just wanted to repay Maggie's kindness and show her his motherland. Maggie was intruded by a call from Marlena, who asked to meet with Maggie. At the extension, Marlena ended the call with Maggie and let John and Steve know Maggie had agreed to see them. Marlena hoped they could make Maggie see reason about Konstantin. Latterly, Maggie arrived and assumed John, Steve, and Marlena wanted to talk about marriage plans. When they asked that she sit down so they could talk with her, she grew agitated. Maggie angrily listed off the probable motifs of discussion. Konstantin is a bad Joe, he is using me, and I should not marry him. She made a stir to leave, but hesitantly sat back down after the triad made another plea. Maggie heated in shock as John bare the tale of his swaying by Konstantin. When John mentioned the Abbey card that Konstantin had used, Maggie flashed back Konstantin claiming the card had reminded him of Katharina and how frantic Konstantin had been when the card had been allowed. Lost. John informed Maggie that the card had been stationed by Stefano preliminarily, and Konstantin had been using the same tactics to control John. John's relating of Konstantin's attempt to destroy the prenup rankled Maggie, and she labeled her fiancé a lying bastard.